This is my presentation on the genre animation and its the subgenres that exist inside it. The genre animation. The genre animation is very big, almost as much as film itself. It is its own genre, though, due to how it is clearly defined and the subgenres that rest under it. Animation as a whole is identified by moving or animating the film frame by frame. This is very close to just regular film, and sometimes not every animation has the animators focus on every frame. I think the best way to identify the genre of animation is to identify if something falls under its subgenres to figure out if it is in the larger genre. The origins of animation can be traced back to the origins of film almost exactly. There used to be cave paintings of 2 frames of a bison running that in a flicker of fire would mimic movement. There are vases from ancient cultures that when spun would also become animation. These examples are where film had begun as well with the theory of the persistence of vision. When the first camera was invented, people would paint onto the film and use stop motion to create unreal creatures. George Méliès is credited with being a pioneer of film, but he was also one of the first filmmakers to experiment with techniques that would fall under animation, such as frame tinting and stop-frame animation. Defining the subgenres and their traits. 2D animation, commonly associated with lighter stories. At the birth of animation, it was the only method to tell any sort of story. Whether deep or silly, it has now been commonly used to entertain or teach children, and it is not as likely to be found in the theaters anymore. It has still been used by some to tell serious stories. 2D animation is made by drawing environments and figures onto 2D surfaces. 3D animation. This genre came around the 2000s. With it, the rise of CGI. 3D animation and CGI are one and the same, but 3D animation is used to define films made fully in 3D spaces. It has been used as a common medium animation after the 2000s for any story that wants to bring the viewers into impossible worlds and where animals talk and the landscape is breathtaking. This same use has been used for CGI in a variety of other films. 3D animation is defined by its ability to copy 3D shapes with accurate lighting and movement to the real world. This makes it extremely easy to copy the real world with 3D software. Recently, 3D movies have tried to move away from trying to be real and more into how 3D can be cartoonized to allow for a more loose expression of reality. Stop motion. Though rare, it is still used to create feature films. Leica and Aardman Animation specialize in stop-motion animation. Stop-motion is used similarly to 3D in the modern film industry, but the fact that it carries a handcrafted look allows stop-motion films to have a little extra than 3D can deliver. The blended genre of 2D/3D. There is an emerging genre between 2D and 3D animation. This genre became popularized after Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Ever since then, many highly accredited movies have come out in this style. This genre allows for artists to control even more of the film visuals than they did before. Colors can be used in new ways. A 3D surface doesn't have to look bland or realistic. It can be made to look like a canvas or a comic book. Because of the artistic freedom of this new blended genre, it has also brought with it an artistic storytelling. Every film that uses the 2D with 3D style has aimed for telling strong messages for all ages. It has also become the new way for passionate hit souls to share their thoughts on the world or a certain topic. It has become commonly known as the animation genre for dedicated animators and storytellers who are making a movie for the love of art. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, 1937. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is about the Princess Snow White, who is ordered to be killed by her evil stepmother. She escapes into the woods and befriends a group of seven dwarves with her kindness. In the end, her prince finds her, and everything ends happily. Now, I know that this sounds like the textbook definition of a film only children could love, but in fact, if only children loved this film, then Disney would have never existed. Walt Disney invested all his money into Snow White to the point where he had to remortgage his house to get enough money for the film. The press mocked him and called the film Disney's folly. They were all proven wrong, though, when Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs became the success it did. The film came at a point in America where there was a Great Depression. It was a Great Depression and nearing a World War II. The character of Snow White wasn't just a princess for children to gawk at. Throughout the film, she keeps her kindness, strength, and love for the world, even though it has treated her badly. She was almost murdered, but then she continued to trust and befriend seven dwarves. Snow White was a figure of hope. She was also an escape at the time. When people left the theaters, they probably had a boost to go on just as Snow White did. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs paved the path for animation to be considered for the big screen. Animated movies continued to write stories for both children and adults until the advancement of 3D animation came in the 2000s. After 3D animation, the subgenre of 2D fell out of favor and has now leaned more towards children as a target audience. Toy Story 1995. Toy Story follows the story of a toy cowboy who is replaced by his child with a toy spaceman, Buzz. Woody despises Buzz due to the feelings that he is replacing him as Andy's favorite toy. They go on a wild adventure together and in the end gain a mutual respect and friendship of each other. Toy Story edged 3D animation into major film industry just as Snow White solidified 2D feature films. Snow White gave audiences a movie that not only took them to another world, but that they could connect with themselves even if it had dwarves. Toy Story gave audiences a movie that showed complex human jealousy and how enemies can become friends. Again, a movie kept its artistic integrity, and the changes it carries have brought about a new change in the genre animation. Shrek 2001. Shrek is about an orc who lives in a swamp in a world filled with fairy tale creatures. The movie uses a lot of satire and isn't exactly the same as opening a fairy tale book. In a way, Shrek is a subversion of the fantasy genre in its story. The orc Shrek is sent on a wild journey to rescue a princess for a lord to marry. He agrees to this because all the fairy tale creatures moved into his swamp after a ban on magic was declared. Lord Farquaad agrees to fix this problem as Shrek takes on a task. Shrek teams up with a donkey, and while the two do find Princess Fiona, it is revealed that she is cursed to turn into an orc at night. The curse is broken by true love's kiss. In the end, she is about to marry Lord Farquaad. She realizes that Shrek is her true love, and Shrek technically breaks the curse, but because Shrek is her true love, she is kept in the form of an orc. Shrek begins a major trend that defines the modern society surrounding the genre animation. Animated films began to embed themselves into the internet and generations who grew up out of it. Shrek became a popular movie for memes and internet culture. Shrek has also won the Oscar for Best Animated Film in 2002. As we continue on this trend of animation becoming a favorite of newer generations, will continue. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2018. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is a film I haven't seen. My best summary would be that the film is about Miles Morales, a regular teenager who follows the same origin story of becoming Spider-Man. He gets into a battle where another Spider-Man in his universe is killed. This battle causes Spider-Man from other universes to slip into his universe, and in order to save the city and help the other Spider-Mans, they all have to work together to defeat Kingpin, who has control of the device that broke the dimensional barriers. In the end, Miles grows into the role of Spider-Man, and his Spider-Man friends return to their own dimensions. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is a cornerstone film for my current generation, Gen Z. It is a film that Gen Z fell in love with due to its deep characters and storytellings. Not only this, but every detail in the film was thought out, down to the camera angles, to the movements, and different comic book styles. Every frame was fine-tuned to tell its story, just as Snow White and Toy Story paved a path for a new genre of more creative and beautiful animation. Spider-Verse has done the same. Currently, the blended genre of 2D and 3D animation has attracted artists who want to tell deep stories in a stylized, dreamlike world. Just as Shrek was ingrained into the internet, Into the Spider-Verse has also gained its place in the hearts of my generation and animation film fans. The 4 films I have explained today demonstrate the many different sides of the genre of animation. It constantly changes in favor of the public, and while the original forms and subgenres of animation in the modern day are very few now, they are used to tell serious stories here and there. I'll continue to mention some honorable mentions of the modern genre of animation. Here are some films in the Spider-Verse style that have become big successes and that I would suggest. The Wild Robot 2024. It has a great story. It's very artistic, and it's a very emotional film. K-Pop Demon Hunters 2025. Most liked by my generation and Gen Alpha, it has a great story, characters, and a lot of artistic detail put into the film. But it's not my favorite out of of the films here. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish 2022. It has very deep storytelling. It's very artistic, and it has the same level as work as The Wild Robot, but in some cases it is better. It has a very deep story. I would also suggest indie YouTube animations that have come from Gen Z, because that is where it seems like the field of animation is heading mostly. And also I would suggest, even though I haven't watched Glitch Productions myself, I would say that Glitch Productions is a good representation of the field of animation and association with Gen Z, my generation. I would describe Glitch Productions as Studio Gen Z's entertainment. I don't enjoy their work myself, since it goes just a bit over the edge for me, but I know, unless I'm completely out of touch with the reality, that Gen Z loves the work that comes from Glitch Productions. It has also experimented with 2D mixed with 3D, but it started in 3D animation. I must also suggest the other indie animation films and series that come from YouTube. A recent revolution has resulted in the animation industry, where many are now trying their luck making independent animated series on YouTube. I would suggest checking out I would suggest checking some of these out. They are quite easy to find if you search animated pilot. I'm also quite excited for the production of Lackadaisy and Hello Baloo myself. These are the references and films that I have mentioned in this presentation. I hope I presented the information well and gave you a good look at the history animation and where it is heading.